This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by liner notes. Learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry professionals I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician on topics such as marketing, songwriting, touring, sync licensing, and much more. Sign up for liner notes at unstarvingmusician.com. It's an email newsletter from yours truly in which I share some of the best knowledge gems garnered from the many conversations featured on The Unstarving Musician. You'll also be privy to the latest podcast episodes and liner notes subscriber exclusives. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. This is The Unstarving Musician. I am Rabanzo. This is my podcast. It features conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals and occasional special topic episodes featuring yours truly, all intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Welcome to another episode. Thank you for being here with me. I'm so appreciative to be coming into your ear canals today, wherever you're listening. By the way, the series music you hear on this podcast, at the beginning, at the end, is New Gods Part 2 by yours truly. You can find links for listening to the full version with vocals by yours truly at rabanzo.com. Just thought you'd like to know that. If you've ever tried to get a guest spot on this or any other podcast, but maybe want to know how to improve your chances of getting that guest feature, musician, sign up for liner notes. You heard me mention it before we started rolling music. Sign up for liner notes and I'll send you a useful tip sheet on how to make it happen, how to improve your chances of getting a guest feature on another podcast, or maybe this one. And if you're thinking of starting your own podcast, be sure to check out the very end of this episode, post sign-off ending, for a special offer from the Unstarving Musician. Okay, my guest. Let's get to my guest right away. Max Frye. He fronts the band Lost Hearts. He's the lead singer and guitarist. He and his bandmates have a pop sensibility with a big rock sound. Max comes across as humble and grounded in our conversation. He's really polite, too. He's a young guy. I think sometimes people come on here and I don't know, they've seen me, they maybe heard an episode or heard I'm an old dude. But anyway, he's very polite. He's probably just that way. He's kind of a southern kid, I suppose. Where did he grow up? Maybe in North Carolina, I believe. We do talk about that, but he's in Nashville and, he's around all those polite people. So that was appreciated. Max, if you're listening, I appreciate that. And that humility I mentioned, and that groundedness possibly comes from the fact that he's worked with many musicians who he says are more experienced than himself. That is an experience that he and I share. That's been great. Sometimes it's older people, sometimes it's younger people, but yeah, just people that are better than me. It's always a blast. There's always so much to learn. Lost Hearts formed earlier this year and thus consider themselves a very new band, as they should, I guess. At their core, the band members are working musicians that have played in plenty of cover and tribute bands, and they now perform and tour as an original band, although they still mix in some of their favorite covers, Max says. In this episode, Max shares the interesting story of how the band came to be, their early days of songwriting together, and we also talk about the band's recent interview on Izzy Presley's Another Effin' podcast, which I'd actually not heard of, but it looks like a pretty cool show. And that interview brought them to the attention of Eddie Trunk of Eddie Trunk Live on Sirius XM, thanks to Izzy Presley, who really was impressed with them, clearly. We discussed the formation of Lost Hearts, like I mentioned, performing unreleased music, the band's pop mentality, release strategy, their search for a record label, kind of passive search for a record label, lessons learned as a working musician, merchandising or merch, the upcoming Lost Hearts performance at the Tacos and Tequila Festival in Lubbock, Texas. I had to talk about that because I love the name of it, but they're playing with some cool bands there, which you'll hear about. And finally, we talk about working toward the next level. Oh, yes, and there is more, right? Always. Okay, please enjoy my conversation with Max Frye of Lost Hearts.
We're doing just audio, right?
That is correct. One less layer to worry about.
And I'm ready whenever you are.
All right, are you in Nashville today?
Yeah, in Nashville. How about you?
I am in Querétaro, Mexico, which is where I lived for about the last, year and some months.
Oh, wow. Where are you from?
Originally Fort Worth, Texas, and spent a lot of
Oh,
years there, met my wife there, and then we spent a lot of years in San Jose, California, in the Silicon Valley area, and then lived in Panama for 6, and now here.
that well traveled, huh? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well, yeah, as far as living, yeah. We try to get about for fun too.
Yeah. Our guitar player is originally from Brazil, born and raised there, and just moved here about 3 years ago.
I was listening to an interview with you guys on, let's see, what's this guy's name? Did I lose it?
Izzy?
Yeah, Izzy. I was like, I remember his first name, Izzy Presley. Yeah. And
Izzy Presley, yeah.
I picked up on his accent, and he finally mentioned something about Brazil because I was like, is he? Well, he's clearly Latin. I'm like trying to
Yeah.
figure out where he's from. He's got that manner of speaking, which is pretty. I enjoyed listening to him. Both of you guys actually. It was a nice interview. Nice interview.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Is he the guy that kind of brought you and the band to the attention of Eddie Trunk?
Izzy Presley, yes, he was. He
Yeah.
Yeah, so we played in Vegas and he came out to the show and we were hanging out and he was there and he was like, "Hey, I really like your guys' music and everything." And he was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna show it to Eddie Trunk." And we were like, "Cool." And I mean, not really like expecting anything out of it. I mean, people, and we knew he was the real deal, but like people always say things, you know what I mean? And then it might come or might not. But it did, and we were like, and we were sitting there like, well, even if he sends it, who knows what he's gonna think of it or anything. But Eddie Trunk was like, I really like it, and we were like, oh, damn, okay,
Yeah,
it's cool.
it was nice. I saw your YouTube video of you guys or a couple of you listening to Eddie Trunk mention you. It was kind of fun to watch. It's funny. I think I used to watch his show many years ago. Didn't he have a show on MTV? Is that right?
Yeah, on I think it was on VH1 called That Metal Show.
Yes. And then he came, like, I didn't know he had the whole XM thing going on, Sirius XM thing going on, but some guys, some former bandmates, and I are in a little chat group, and he came up. Why did he come up? I don't remember, but so I checked out his. Oh, you know what? I think I had listened to an interview of his with Eddie Kramer, the producer.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I just somehow I was digging around about a band called Foghat. Yeah, Foghat, and I found
Oh yeah.
and so I found this interview anyway, which they didn't talk about them, but it was kind of interesting. And so these friends of mine like really remembered him quite well, and they're a little bit younger than me, so they were like big fans, and they apparently listened to him quite a bit. But I've just kind of caught up, and I heard you mention in the conversation, I think with Izzy, yeah, it must have been. I heard you mention the Ace Frehley drama episodes.
Yes. Oh my God. I mean, the whole band is huge Kiss fans, so we were on the road and listening to that, and it's like, man, it's just crazy. Like it's wild that in that band and like in so many bands, these guys have these feuds and they keep going like forever. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, you would think at this point that people would just be able to kind of let it go, but I guess there's just so much history there. You know?
Yes, you're making me think of some friends. I'm sorry for the name drop here. I went to school with three of the guys from Pantera, and was good friends with one of them, and when I was really young. But they got into a big thing. The bass player, got into, and I guess Phil Anselmo got into a big thing with the brothers, and they unfortunately carried that to both of their deaths. And two of them are still alive. The brothers are both gone, but unfortunately, yeah, they stayed kind of in a bad way with each other for too many years, and it's kind of sad, but
Man,
it happens.
yeah, I mean that was especially when I was getting into playing guitar, that was one of my favorite bands. And I mean, I always thought that was a shame the way, like, I mean, and of course they're out there doing the reunion now, but it's like, man, if they would have done it when Vinny was alive and done the Zach Wild thing, that would have been like so perfect to me. And it is kind of weird because it's like, you know, it's cool to see like Pantera, but it's like without either one of the brothers there, it's kind of strange to me. Like it's kind of like Van Halen. Like if Alex passed away and then all of a sudden David Lee Roth and Michael Anthony, or like Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony are out here, oh Van Halen. It's like, man,
It
I
would
don't
be
know,
weird.
dude. That's a little strange. And it's the same kind of thing in my book. I mean, think about how important those brothers were to that band, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
obviously they have the blessing from some sort of person, and I don't know that much about it, but it's definitely strange.
Yeah, me either. Before I knew it was going on, I had been chatting off and on with Rex, and then all of a sudden it was going on, and I didn't know. Of course, I don't follow them too much, and but I did read that those guys, Zach and the other guy that is touring with them, that they were actually all really good friends for many years. So I'm like, well, that's kind of nice at least. I don't. I'm doesn't bother me so much, but I gathered that a lot of fans are like, nope, no Daryl, no Pantera, you know. But
Don't get me
loyalists.
wrong, I would go. I would go for sure. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
as much of a fan as I am of that band. And I mean, it is still two of the members. A lot of bands do worse. You know what I mean? A lot of bands are out there, no original members, just going strong. It's
just just a name that might happen to Kiss too. Speaking of Ace Frehley and those guys, I've heard. I've not read anything, but I've heard that they're just basically going to franchise the name and keep the whole thing going after they're retired. I'm like, well, I guess you could do that with that band, but would be crazy. Did I lose you?
Hello.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Yeah, I lost
Can
you
you
for a
hear me?
second.
Sorry, man. It was somebody was calling me and somehow it got off for a second. I'm back now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if you didn't already, if you could put it on whatever, do not disturb or whatever, that'd be great.
Yes, of course, of course.
Um, so you came to Nashville from North Carolina, is that right?
Yes, that is true. Born and raised Raleigh, North Carolina, and moved here when I was 16, about 4 years ago.
Ah, okay. And what about the other two guys?
The other guys in the band, so like I said, Victor is from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
born and raised. JT is from Kentucky, and then Mitch, the drummer, is from Ohio.
Is it the case that you all met from like just being working musicians, or was it like a couple of you met and knew one or two of the other guys? How did that work out?
So yeah, me and Victor first met. We met just through playing in bands. We were both in two tribute bands actually, and one was I was doing Van Halen, he's doing Def Leppard, playing guitar, and it was the same guys in the band. We met kind of through that and did some gigs together and everything, and became kind of fast friends. You know what I mean? We just hang out and everything, and it is always interesting when you meet people who are like, especially that are younger, like our age, and into this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's a rarity. And so kind of latched onto each other and started working on stuff. But we were kind of like just hanging out first. We were writing songs, and he knew JT from another band they were in called Native Sons. He called him because he was like, hey, this guy's great with writing and like production and stuff. And so I brought him in and all started writing songs together. And then the only part that was not really like 100% natural was finding a drummer. And we had to go through kind of a few different avenues to try to find a drummer. So that was interesting. But, we found Mitch on Instagram actually, because after a while we started getting to the point where like, man, just go on Instagram and look up like Nashville drummer. And so we just said hashtag Nashville drummer. And there's Mitch, just moved to town. And so that's how we met him, funny enough.
How long has it been since you guys got together with Mitch?
So we got together with Mitch about, I want to say March, started rehearsing. We started as a band, like writing together and stuff, and more like, I don't know, December probably. And so it did take us a little while to kind of get everything. And we already had the songs. Like we had, I think, two of the songs were written and like being recorded by the time we met Mitch, because we knew we wanted to do this thing, and we were like, hey, we just need a drummer, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I was noticing you guys right now. You have 3 singles out, and I gathered from listening to Izzy's show that you stockpiled a lot of demos and probably just a bunch of riffs and hooks separate from that. So a lot sitting on a lot of material, and maybe it was when I was listening to the conversation you were having with him, or just sort of looking at the small amount of music that you've released and that you guys look really busy playing around. I'm like, well, they must be, doing some covers. But now I'm guessing that do you guys, first question, do you guys try out some of your newest material when you're out touring, or do you kind of stick to the things you've released and then maybe covers when you're doing just, shows around town?
Oh, we definitely do. I mean, ever since we've started, I mean, we've had a lot of songs that we play that are not out, and that continues to be the case for sure. We play, I don't know how many songs. We do definitely do some covers too. But usually, like, if we're doing an hour set, I think we do like maybe probably like 7 originals or 6 or whatever, and then we'll do like 3, 4 covers.
Do all the originals currently have a sort of a pop bent to them, like the ones you've released?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. All of them have a big like chorus, you know what I mean? Or like definitely have a hooky chorus.
Yeah, and I meant to say I meant to refer to your originals that are unreleased. I feel like I might have said covers, but it is the case with the originals that you're trying out, that you haven't necessarily released, where you have like the big choruses and the pop hooks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was one of the things from the inception of the band that we were like, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to, have big choruses, because a lot of bands, it seems like, try to maybe, I like that, almost like they're like too cool for school or something. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
they like, I don't know, and I'm all for, like, I listen to all different kinds of music. You know what I mean? Everything from, I like all the whatever progressive. I like Rush. I like Tool. I like all those bands or whoever it may be. But like, that avenue's been explored, and a lot of times the way I feel when I listen to new music is I'm like, cool. Like, I love a lot of the elements that are there. You know what I mean? Like, I like all the production and everything. But then it's like the song itself. I think that's the thing people like miss out on the most, is like, is it a good song? You know what I mean? Is the production's all cool and everything, and yeah, there's a shred solo or this or that or a keyboard interlude. Okay, but is the song good? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And uh, and there are a lot of new songs that are really good. I'm not saying there's not, of course, and I like a lot of new stuff, and that's where I kind of try to draw inspiration from, just to kind of make it so that the song will stick in people's minds. And I mean, all the songs, I think, for the most part, that have become kind of timeless, definitely have the big choruses for the most part.
Yeah, they have something, either like big chorus or maybe just this hook or drone that just people, people you just can't
Yeah.
get rid of. Well, and as your new fan Eddie Trunk pointed out when he was talking about you guys, it's such a crowded space, so it does seem like thinking about the pop element is a good thing. I heard you make the comment about this on Izzy's show, sort of ignoring pop, maybe just a little too into your own thing or your ego or whatever. And I was kind of laughing inside because I've released 2 singles over a couple of years, and it's been actually over a year since the last one. But the first one definitely has a pop element to it, and I kind of share that with you, and that just a lot of my influences have that, and I think, well, this poppy kind of short, I think is a good thing to help people appreciate. But the second one I did was really it was a very personal sort of like, I'm going to just try and do this ode to Zeppelin, Genesis, and prog rock, because I found this collaborator who had this killer keyboard riff. But I think the pop side of me did definitely I asked him, can you like shorten these parts for me and give me this center. So even though it doesn't sound remotely pop, I was still thinking of that. But I think, to your point, I think it's a good thing. It is a crowded space, like Eddie Trunk says, and pop has a lot of potential for getting you noticed.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as I'm sure when we do an album, we'll have some stuff that's more kind of exploring. You know what I mean? Because I
Hmm.
mean, we're a new band. We still got to explore like what is our kind of non-pop side. Like if we have the option and we want to do an album, not every song needs to be a single. You know what I mean? And like even on some of the greatest like pop or pop rock masterpieces, like one of my favorite albums, for example, is "Kick" by NXS.
Yeah, great album.
That album has a lot of pop songs on it. Like you can sing like every song on that album, but then there's like a song called "Mediate" where it's just like the whole thing rhymes, and it's just like it's more like a break in the album. And so and that's some of my favorite stuff. There is like the stuff that kind of breaks up the monotony.
Hmm.
And so we'll definitely do stuff like that in the future.
And are you guys still on kind of a singles release approach or strategy? I'd also heard you talking about, one of you or Victor, talking about that. Like, yeah, there's just not that many people doing albums, and singles feel kind of good right now. Are you still feeling that way at the moment?
I mean, at the moment, yes. And we've been talking about that. Part of it is like we want to do maybe like an EP or like two EPs because that's part of the thing with the album. I want it to kind of sound like an album. And there is a lot of elements like marketing and stuff like that we have to think about too. And getting people to listen to our music because it's like, we put time into recording the songs and of course money and all that. I mean, just to be simply about it, it's mainly just about kind of feeding the algorithm kind of thing. But that's unfortunately what you kind of have to do, it seems like,
Sure, it's
or else
true.
people will just kind of forget about you until you're a big artist.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as of now, and I mean, as far as an album, I would love to do an album. It's just more like when I do that and when we do that, I really want it to sound like an album. I don't want it to sound like, hey, we recorded 8 singles and then we put two on there and we're calling it an album. I want it to be like a not a concept, but I want it to all be cohesive together. And so that's why I thought about maybe some EPs would be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and it's especially if it's something that you do next. It seems, and I don't know, like a logical thing, and a lot of great bands sort of started that way. With an EP release and then graduate to their second release as an album. But anyway, it's certainly something to experiment with. And yeah, you're right. With the with the attention economy as it is, thinking about what the algorithms are going to like, and expose people to is very helpful. I'm sure. Are you guys also? Are you still? I'm going to use the word shopping, but that may not be exactly how it is. Maybe it's more of a like keeping your eyes open. But are you guys still shopping labels?
Yes, we are. And we've had a couple of offers and definitely some interesting offers, but as of now, just kind of sitting back, seeing what happens because we are so new. And it's not like we have like 20 or something, but we've had like five. I don't know. It's a big decision to make for sure. I mean, signing away, and of course, I'm sure, but a lot of people sometimes don't think about like how much you're really giving up. You know what I mean? And of course, it's like it. I feel like it's necessary because it's like, yeah, you're giving up a lot, but at the same time, I don't feel like you're really gonna get there, especially nowadays without a label. So there's that element of it too, of course. But it's just like, just waiting and we want to talk with somebody and see who kind of shares our vision and this whole thing and just that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, if they would be a fit, but I had a guy on the show recently, and if you looked at one of, so he has, I think, two and maybe a third label spinning up. But if you looked at the original one, you might think, well, that may not be a fit. But anyway, he might be of interest, a mutual interest. His name's John Templeman, and he has the label that is most prominent that he has is Jib Machine, JIB record, Jib Machine Records. But I'll send you some info on him. It would be kind of interesting for you guys to look at, and he certainly might be interested in what you guys are doing. He's kind of diversifying. He started out as kind of a hard rock punk label, but again, he's created one, and I think a third brand is coming up because I guess, I don't know, because he's been in it so long, there are different opportunities that either he's looked at or have been presented to him, but he doesn't want to mix it, try and mix certain genres into a label that's clearly like kind of hard rock punk. But anyway, yeah, I'm just thinking when I was, again, I keep talking about Izzy, but when I was watching your interview there, I was like, it might be kind of cool for them to look at John Templeman. But no, I'll send you send you his link to his episode, but you could just click through and find him if you're interested.
No, absolutely. I appreciate that. I'd love to talk with him.
Mm-hmm.
That
Cool.
sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, he seems like a neat guy. He's been around a while, and he's a musician too, which I think is nice. Like he's still actively doing it. So, and I guess most of the people, even if they're not like in a band that I talk to here, are musicians. But he's actually still, like recording, and I think he does some shows from time to time. So that's kind of cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Can't stop,
Yeah, exactly. I love that you guys also, when I checked out that interview of you guys, I love that you talked about being working musicians. And again, when I was looking at what you guys have done and just sort of looking at the band, I was like, I wonder if these guys are like gigging. And probably because you're in Nashville too. It seems like everyone there is like working to some degree or another. They're not just focused on this one thing. So they're just taking gigs, But anyway, I love that you talked about it because everybody sounds very honed in on their skills. You're great players. You're a great vocalist. And I don't know. I gathered that it started out with a bunch of lead guitarists and everything, but I'm assuming the drummer was more of a drummer guy since you went through the trouble of finding a new guy. But I really do love that you talked about all that working musician stuff. Can you speak to how that has helped you out, and like if you were ever talking to other musicians, would you, who have or starting bands or in a new band, would you encourage them to do as you have done and just kind of be a working, gigging guy and maybe does tribute shows on the side or picks up hired gun type things?
Thank you for saying that. And the thing that I can kind of attest to with that is like my history was I knew a little bit about playing guitar, like a little bit. I knew like the names and I knew the pentatonic scale and I knew like cowboy chords and bar chords. But that was what I knew when I was really young. It just didn't really grab me. My parents kind of tried to put me in lessons because I liked music a lot. I really liked rock, but I just wasn't into like learning to play guitar yet. And then, my mom took me to like a kind of open mic night. Like her friend was just going because like her friends were playing or whatever, and like a blues jam, and we went, and I was just kind of blown away, like seeing people actually on stage, and I had seen bands, but like this was more of like a personal setting, and I was like, wow, these guys can really play and everything. I just learned some songs, and I came back like a few weeks later and played, and that was kind of how I started. It was definitely an interesting way to go about it, you know what I mean? But I was playing with all older people, and it's like the things that people would do, you know what I mean? And it's like the things like, okay, people would throw me up there and say, "Oh, play this song," and I'm like, I don't know that song, and they're like, "You'll be fine." You know what I mean? Stuff like that, and they're like, it's just like not a question, and I'm over there like panicking. I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna look like a fool. But then you realize like it doesn't really matter. You're gonna get through it. You're gonna be okay. But it all started from there. I joined a few bands, and I always played with older people. I just didn't really think anything of it. And there's a few takeaways from that. I think one of them is that you don't ever want to be the best person in the room. I think the second one would be you really got to humble yourself and people like to talk, and especially when I was younger like that, the people would say, "Oh man, you're great, this and that," but it's like, and then you go to the rehearsal though, and it's like, hey, yeah, people might think you're great, but you're still messing up that part. You gotta fix that. You know what I mean? Or you're doing this, or you're doing that, and it's like, people aren't gonna, especially people who have been in music for that long, they're not gonna pull any punches with you just because you're young.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And that was something I definitely had to learn was, hey, just this is a job. Don't take any of that personally. You treat it like a job. And that was one of the most important things I think I learned was that rather than it being like, and I also had like kind of teenage bands with my friends, but none of them really went anywhere until I started this band. It definitely taught me more. I saw music less as like I'm hanging out with my friends who are teenagers and we're jamming or whatever. It was more like, hey, yeah, we got to go get ready for the gig with all these older guys, you know what I mean? And it was definitely more of a professional setting. And so, I mean, it's all an individual journey. It's whatever works for people. It's not to say there's anything wrong with starting a band, but I think for anybody getting in, starting out is have fun, but definitely try to look at it as a professional setting and a job because there's enough people out here who kind of don't treat it like a job or maybe don't take it
In
seriously. You know
Nashville?
what I mean? Even in Nashville, even in
Wow.
Nashville.
Is it fair to say you're a self-taught musician then? It sounds like maybe you didn't go to university and major in music, but you kind of learned from, playing gigs and maybe doing some lessons here and there. And now, God bless YouTube, there's so many things you can learn from other people there. But are you self-taught?
Yeah. I think at first I was, you know what I mean? Like I think the first probably 4 years I was self-taught. I've had some teachers since then who kind of taught me, but still to this day, I really don't know that much about theory or anything, to be honest. I know some scales and stuff, and I know little things, but I've never really learned about theory. And that's something I kind of want to do because I feel like that's like maybe my next thing. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like I know what works and what doesn't kind of thing, but I know that just from playing and learning songs. And yeah, I pretty much learned everything on YouTube. I mean, so after the whole open mic thing, I did that for like years, like 2 years. I would go there like every week, and I would wake up for school the next day. But I went like every week to open mics and just play blues and just jam songs and stuff. And so after that, I joined a couple Aussie tributes, and yeah, I learned all that music on uh, on
So
YouTube.
amazing. So I'm a self-taught drummer, and I learned some theory late in life, but I've been playing so long. I'm sure you've heard the stories. Basically like you're there with either the cassette tape or the record player, just backing the song up over and over, listening to parts or trying to decipher lyrics. And now this stuff is all there, which is really really wonderful. And plus you get to just see some killer players. But you're reminding me too, like I was like, oh, I'd like to learn, expand my theory vocabulary. And I learned somewhat recently about Rick Beato, I guess this, or Beato, I'm sorry, Rick Beato on YouTube. And he has, I guess, a lot of
Yes.
videos on theory and some courses and stuff. But yeah, there's so many great places to learn. And I love that you talk. So I have had the blues jam experience too. I was a lot farther along than it sounds like you were when you first started, but I had a very similar experience. So I'm a like super seasoned gigging drummer, and I moved to another state. I went to California, and San Jose at the time had a really vibrant blues scene, and it was like the last years of this club that was sort of on the decline, but it had been like a legendary place for blues artists to go to. But there was this really amazing singer musician there named Laura Price, and she was hosting a blues jam. And so some friends of mine encouraged me to go out and play, so I do. And she says, we're gonna do this song, and I'm like, okay. I'm like you, like I don't know the song. She goes, it's basically a shuffle, and at this time, like a shuffle for me, being a rock drummer most of my life, is like one thing, but I'm like, okay, I'm in a blues. It's something very specific, or for me, it was something very specific in blues. But thank God, she does know her theory really well, and she just sang me a shuffle really quick, while we're about to do a song. So I go through that whole experience, and yeah, same thing. I see all these killer musicians, and I wish I'd have spent even more time doing that. I'm kind of new in this area, and I have not found an open mic, and specifically like a blues jam around here, but I'm kind of anxious to try and start one. But I love that you brought that up, and it's so funny also that you mentioned, not being I forgot how you said it, like not being the best guy in the room, but there's this, I suppose, entrepreneurs say, you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, but it's so true with musicians too, as you said. And the most benefit I've gotten out of being a gigging musician is playing with guys that are a lot more experienced than me. And, as a drummer, first and foremost, it's usually like some bass player who's like been around the block, or went to university or whatever, or some guitar player, and it's so great. And I know you guys are really young, and it sounds like your journey on the guitar's relatively short compared to a lot of people that you probably have played with and everything, but you're doing fantastic. Your bandmates sound fantastic, so I think it's going to be really fun to watch you and your bandmates grow as musicians too.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm definitely, I don't feel like I'm like a great guitar player or anything. I don't feel like I'm a great singer. Like I feel like, it's definitely a never ending journey. There's so many different things you can do on guitar and with your voice. And when you've had people out there like Eddie Van Halen and Steve Perry, it's like, how are you going to
Yeah.
compare to that? You know what I mean? John Bonham, whoever it is, Tommy Aldridge, all these drummers and all these greats out there, but they're all so different. You know what I mean? That's the thing that's crazy about it in general, is like these guitar players, like there's nobody, I think, arguing that, David Gilmour and Eddie Van Halen are both great guitar players for like very different reasons.
Yeah, well, that humility that you just expressed will get you really far, I think. Stay that way, and you're going to continue growing and learning. And you remind me too, I go crazy, like the comparison that you made, Gilmore and Van Halen. I go crazy, like I see this on Twitter all the time. They'll literally post something like, which one is your favorite? And they'll like have two guys like that. I'm like, that's so stupid. They're so different.
It makes no sense.
I don't say anything, but I want to usually, like, this is stupid. Why do you ask these questions? But I know they're just trying to create tweets so people get, whatever. But so I was checking out your website. Great website. I happened to look at your store because I'm always kind of interested in what people are doing for merch. And I have to say, you guys have a great logo for merchandising, and the offering on your store, the one that's connected to your website, is kind of limited, but I think that's really great because the logo just works beautifully on all the stuff you have. I guess I saw like t-shirts, some tote bags, and a keychain. Did you guys or anyone in the band by chance design the logo?
No, so the guy that designed the logo, his name is Joey Hernandez, and he's really great. I mean, he does all kinds of. You've probably seen some of his shirts before, like just if you've been around rock and stuff. He does some like did all the like Steel Panther and does like some Alice Cooper tour shirts and stuff. And he's really talented though, man, and he's just very like humble guy. And I mean, we did the thing, and he was like, "Yeah, send me like $50 or whatever." It was like ridiculous.
No kidding.
And we sent him more. We were like, "Bro, like that's the logo. Like we're sending you more." But it definitely took some work too. We hired like a bunch of people, and it was just like they were bringing us stuff, and we were like, "Man, this is like so far off." You know what I mean? Like it was strange, but when we got him and he started with it, we were like, okay, now we're definitely getting on the right track. And then he came with that. We were like, okay, this will do. And then it really grew on us. You know what I mean? Because I think at that point we were so like, we liked the logo, but we were so like just tired of the of the journey of the logo that had been going on for months. We were like, okay, this is it. And it's really grown on us. And I mean, we're designing some more shirts with them right now. And I mean, some of them incorporate the logo and some not. So we're definitely still trying to get more. Because I agree with you. Like it is kind of limited with the logo. So which is not a bad thing because I think
No, not at all.
people definitely recognize it, but we're trying to get more creative about it as well and see how can we do the logo maybe differently or incorporate something else in there, that kind of stuff as
It's
well.
it's really cool the way it is now because it's in a real tight format, so it works really cool on to be like the center of something, or to be like in the case of the keychain, it is like the whole thing, or like the sticker. It's great. I like it. And no, I don't think that having the limited offering. Actually, I thought that was pretty good. And I mean, you guys obviously are a new band, so I'm sure it will grow. I like talking about merch. I'll have one more question. Do you guys how does the merch do for you at shows, or is it mostly sort of after the fact? People go online, or do you have like merch tables at some of the shows that you do?
Yeah, we do have merch tables, and I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of times when we're going out there like opening band, sometimes it's the only way you can. I feel like it's so crucial, and that's another reason why we're trying to get more designs and more kind of stuff. Is like we play with this one band, and they're a tribute band, Aussie tribute band. But we were opening for them one of our earliest shows, and we saw their merch booth, and it was like it's better than Ozzy's merch booth. Like it was ridiculous. Like they had like I don't know 20 different T-shirt designs. Like it was crazy. And we saw that and we were like, man, but that's the thing about it because I mean, I've been in in tribute bands where they don't even sell merch. And I'm like, man, you know, there was a line like 30 people to buy merch there. And
That's
it's
crazy.
crazy. And a lot of times as an opening band, you're not getting paid or you're getting paid like very little or you're buying on. You know what I mean? People forget about that happens sometimes. And it's like, so the merch can be so crucial at those shows because that's the way you're getting that gas in your car or getting that hotel room. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. Like
And
someone told me a long time ago, is make it easy for people to support you, and offer a lot of different ways to if they want to just donate, give them different ways to pay. If they want to buy something, give them stuff to buy. Whatever they want.
exactly. And, that's the thing. I've even heard of bands like they'll buy onto a tour and they'll break even or make money just from selling merch. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So
that's good to hear. I mean,
definitely try to do that.
it's a little sad that all of you at the shows aren't making money just being there, but it's nice to hear that there's this vehicle, and it seems like it's just gotten easier and easier to. I mean, obviously you have to you have to have a nice design, and you have to think about what do our fans, what would they want to buy of that has, represents us. So you have to put some thought into it, but at the same time, sort of like recording music, it's so much easier. I mean, it's never been easier to offer this kind of thing to your fans. So anyway, good job. I think it's nice stuff that you have, and I'm sure the stuff that you'll come up with in the future will be great too.
Thank you so much. We're definitely trying to explore that avenue.
All right, so one last topic to hit you with. There were two reasons I wanted to bring it up. One, because it was in Texas, and like I mentioned, I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. But I see you guys are doing this festival called, I love this name, Tacos and Tequila Festival in Lubbock. And the other thing that caught my eye was Incubus and Third Eye Blind are playing there. And I'll mention the other ones on the bill: Bad Flower, Blackstone Cherry, Paris Jackson, and Labor 12. Is that one of the bands too?
Yeah, I think they're it's the first band. That's them, and then we're next, and then all the rest.
Cool. And Lost Hearts, of course. Yeah, cool.
Lost
Have
Arts.
Have you guys played this show before, or yeah, how did it come about? Are you excited about it? You do a lot of festivals.
We've done some stuff, but I mean, this is probably going to be the biggest show we've done so far. We're doing this one, and then Hailstorm this month too, and I think that one's it's like 2,000 people, and it's sold out
Where's that one?
already. That's in Minneapolis. Like,
Nice.
or like they're in Prior Lake, um, Minnesota, actually right outside of Minneapolis, which should be cool because get to go to Prince's house.
Nice.
Basically, that should be
Yeah.
fun. And I've been wanting to do that, and of course, the show will be awesome. I mean, as far as that, we're doing some of the biggest shows we've done as a band. We're very excited about that, but Incubus will definitely be the biggest one, and especially because I mean it's a festival, but it's not like a festival where you look and it's like okay 30 bands, you know what I mean? It's like less than 10, and it's just one day, and so it's pretty cool. We're
Yeah.
very excited about that.
I saw them decades ago, Incubus, and I never saw Third Eye Blind, but I was wondering, like, wow, I wonder if it's the same guys. A publicist contacted me maybe like a year ago. The original lead singer, I don't even know if he's with the band but anymore, but the original lead singer had a single out, and wanted to they were pitching me to have him as a guest, and I don't remember if I like didn't see the message for a while or like just waited too long, and then he got busy, so I didn't get to talk to him. But that would have been fun. Great band though. I hope you guys enjoy that experience, and the other festivals too. That sounds great. Of course, as soon as I asked the question, do you do a lot of them? You guys are so new as a band. I guess you've done a handful, but I'm guessing you will be doing a lot in the future. I think you guys seem like you'd be really fun on a big stage or in a small venue. I've seen some videos of your small venue stuff too, but it seems like you'd be great on a big stage as well.
Thank you so much. We're trying to figure stuff out, like as far as what can we do with our stage show. We were just rehearsing last night, and actually we were talking about some stuff, like even little stuff like choreography or whatever. Like people really remember that stuff, you know? It's crazy. So we're definitely trying to, like I said, we are new. We put our first show in April 1st. What a launch, April Fool's Day. We're definitely still trying to get better. We don't think by any stretch of the imagination that our journey is like any close to coming to a finish as far as how we can get as a live band. And it's just trying to, and we had a big meeting about that too just a few days ago, like how can we, here's all of the avenues we talked about: merch and live show recording, social media. We're like, okay, let's make a list. How can we kind of step up all of these things and just try to get to the next level?
Yeah, I think you're smart with the focus on trying to make the show special. I've heard different musicians in various genres talk about, and some of these guys are just all playing consistently small venues, but they're like always thinking about how can I make the show something memorable, and I think that is important. People really dig that. Max, thank you again for joining me. Give my best to the guys, your bandmates, and best of luck to you guys.
Dude, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time, great questions and everything. And anytime you want to have me or the band or anyone, just let me know.
My pleasure, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, my friend. I'll talk with you anytime.
Thanks again for listening. If you have feedback, questions, comments, complaints, leave your thoughts at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you love this podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the many ways of showing your support. And if you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands to build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle features amazing design options and commission-free store to sell music, merch, tickets, and more. And it provides detailed fan data. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, that's ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. Find links for all the people and things we talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Peace, love, and a whole lot of gratitude. If you're interested in starting a podcast but have been procrastinating, stick around for another moment because I want to tell you about Podcast Startup. It's a program I started working on months ago but hit the pause button on. Well, I've unpaused and hit the resume button. I'm excited to tell you all about it. If you feel you need a little help getting your podcast started, Podcast Startup is for you. It's affordable, info-packed, and ideal for new podcasters. With Podcast Startup, you'll get an amazing step-by-step guide for getting started, lots of practical tips, and direct access to me for the unexpected, the deep questions, the I need a little more help kind of stuff related to podcasting. Look, I've published, recorded, and worked on over 275 podcast episodes. I am constantly studying to improve my own game, and I want to start helping others start and sustain their own podcast. Did you know that most podcasts don't even make it past their first few episodes? That's right. They start, they stall, and then they die. Sustaining a podcast ain't easy. It's a commitment. Poor planning and poor expectations are a recipe for fast burnout and fade out for podcasters. This is exactly the kind of thing that Podcast Startup was designed to help with. If you're intrigued, if you want to start a podcast the right way, go to unstarvingmusician.com/podcast startup to sign up for the beta launch. Wait, what? Beta launch? Yep, this is all new, and for a limited time, you can get a screaming deal on Podcast Startup. It'll always be well worth the price of admission, but the screaming deal is only available for a limited time. Go to unstarvingmusician.com/podcast startup to learn more. Start your podcast the right way with Podcast Startup by me and the Unstarving Musician.